All right, so good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to today's session. So today we're going to be talking about principles of information architecture. We're continuing from where we stopped on Monday. Okay, so we're going to go through the principles of information architecture and other theoretical knowledge on information architecture. Then we'll hop into FigJam and complete the information architecture we're creating on Monday. Okay, so to get the full site map of KodeCamp website, that was what we were working on Monday. Okay, so these principles now that we're going to talk about today are principles that guide the creation of information architecture. Okay, so we should not confuse information architecture for a site map. What we created on FigJam on Monday, that is not information architecture. That's a component of information architecture, is a part of information architecture. If you remember from our last session, I said information architecture has four components. It has the organization system, the labeling system, navigation system, and the search system. Okay, so now a site map in general would comprise of just the organization and the labeling system. Because in a site map, we organize content via hierarchy and we label them in a site map. But the navigation system and the search system, like I explained, these are other components of information architecture. Giving you the idea that information architecture it's very holistic. It's not just the site map. It's not just the lines and hierarchy that you created on FigJam. It's more than that. Okay? It's basically everything we do to make sure our design, our product can be easily navigated, that users can find what they want easily in our application. So while that involves creating sitemap, it also involves more than that. So now the first principle we're going to talk about today is the principle of objects. So in information architecture, we are tasked to treat content as a living, breathing thing, its own structure, attributes, and behaviors. Content should be treated as a living, breathing thing. It has life cycles, behaviors, and attributes. Is it just simply saying that for every single content we are labeling, we're organizing, we're keeping it, we are keeping it in a particular place? We should you should treat it with the knowledge that it's a unique subset of our application. We should treat it as a living, breathing thing. The way you treat a human being, when you talk about personalized therapy, individualized stuff, that's how we should treat content. Okay, so what this means is that we should not generalize too much. We should not generalize, especially when we are creating categories. Okay, when you created categories, grouping different things under different groups, it doesn't mean that because we are in the same category, you should treat us the same way. If by virtue of our properties, we should be treated the same way, fine. But the principle of object states that we should treat each content as a thing that has its own structure, its own attributes and behaviors. So we should not take from something else and put in another thing. So for example, the example I gave here is so a news website. Let's say a news website may have a section for blog and a section for customer service. So both of them are pages. But by virtue of their properties, a blog is something that would be updated almost every day because people keep sharing news, people keep sharing articles. So when you're designing a blog, the blog page, or when you're taking into account the information architecture of the blog page, you should take into account the fact that it would grow. It's something that would require frequent updates. But now the customer service page might be more stagnant. It will be more static. because customer service, what does it imply, or what does it give people? Is just simply put your details, talk about your problem, click send. That's all people will do on that page. So now these two categories maybe at the same level in your information architecture, but you have to treat them differently because they have different properties. So that's what the first principle of object tells us. The second principle is simply principle of choice. So in information architecture, or in creating the architecture of a website or an application, should create pages that offer meaningful choices to users, keeping the range of choices available focused on a particular task. It's as simple as keeping the choice, just keep the choices to a minimum. Okay, you do not overload your users. When you're grouping things, when you're making categories, make it as keep it to a minimum. Do not overload your users, basically. So, for example, if you take if you go to a restaurant and they hand you a menu. So imagine a menu that has 200 items, and you're expected to select something and select something. The the vast number of items, the vast categories and everything there would confuse you. It will lead to cognitive load, and you might spend hours poring over what to pick, compared to a menu that offers you just 10 items, which you can easily narrow down. Okay, so you just simply keep your choices, keep the number of choices to a minimum. Don't overload your users. At any point they are in your website, do not overload them. So this implies is when in most times in information architectures, we have higher level categories, which is also broken down into lower level categories. Okay, that's the reason why we have to group things, because we are trying to make sense of a a larger number of information and to keep choices to a minimum. Simply giving users 50 items to pick from and giving them three categories to decide on is different. Okay? So, for example, a landing page on an e-commerce website may offer two parts: to shop and to learn more, rather than making users choose between all the possible models and types of content upfront. So, the example here is simply when you go to a website, sometimes you can just see the option to log in and sign up. That's the first two options you see. That's the first two choices you see. There are a lot more things you can do on that website apart from signing up and logging in. But the choice they gave you at the first instance are these two choices. It kept the choices to a minimum. So the way we see things on websites or applications, they're not just there by chance. We have had to adhere to these principles to create those interfaces so that you as a user can use it efficiently and get your tasks done. So now you as a user, if you decide to sign up, fine, you sign up, then you now see other choices available to you. And the third principle we're going to look at is the principle of disclosure. So here it simply says show only enough information to help people understand what kind of information they will find as they dig deeper. So what this means is should simply show a preview of information that will help users understand what kind of information is hidden if they dig deeper. So this is where the importance of labeling comes into play. Labeling, how you label items. Gives you an idea of what's to come. Or for example, in disclosure, you show some items in your application and you simply put a see all. So the principle of this disclosure here helps the user because they're going to see what kind of information is available. And if they decide to go ahead and see more, they'll click on see more. If I'm going to use an example, I would use a book. Let's say you are going book shopping, you went to a library, you're looking for a book to buy or to read. So from the name of the book, the pictures attached in the front page and the blurb or the summary of the book at the back. So it tells you a little about what will be on the book. Then you as the user, as the buyer, will decide, okay, from this information I have gotten, looking at the front page of the book, from this information I've gotten from this little disclosure, I'm going to decide if I want to read this book or purchase this book. That's what the principle of disclosure tells us, right? Then the next principle is the principle of exemplars. Fancy word just means example. Give examples. So describe the content of categories by showing examples of the content. For example, a grocery delivery site may show icons that represent different types of products in each aisle, or using a plant icon to represent vegetable or plant produce. So give examples. Simply give examples. The same way I've been talking about different principles, and for each principle I've been talking about, I was giving examples to help you as a learner understand it better. So the same way you as a designer are going to give examples in whatever category to help you understand, to help your user understand what you're talking about. That's simply what this principle is talking about. Next principle is the principle of front doors. So the principle says that we should assume that at least half of website visitors would come through some other page other than the home page. Okay, so we talked about this when we were talking about user journeys and user flows. Sometimes a website, for me to sometimes a website, I might not get to your website from the home page. It's possible I have an issue. I'm talking to a friend, and okay, they're like, oh, let me send you a course. So they send me a link. Let's say this is for an e-learning platform like Udemy or Coursera, a self-paced learning platform. Okay, so now they send a course, the link to a course on Udemy, and I click on the link. So this link will take me to the course page of Udemy. So now, initially, when you're creating, most of us, when we're creating our site, our user flows, we started at the home page because we're assuming that all our users will be coming in from the home page, but it's not always so. Okay, so the principle of front doors is telling you to assume that your website visitors can come through different pages. It could be the home page, it could be the contact us page, it could be the service page. So at each point, at every page of your website, ensure that they did not get lost. It's holistic, that every page makes sense. So because we started our flow from home and we're going from home, we're searching to product details, to carts, to purchase and checkout. It doesn't always mean the flow would go that same way or our users will start at the same process, at this same stage. We should ensure that if our users enter our application at possibly the product details page, they should have an idea or a sense of where they are. They should be able to navigate back to the home page. And then from there, they can choose whatever flow or whatever path they want to follow. Okay, so that's the reason why we created user flows to envision different paths our users can take. And that's simply what this principle of front doors tells us. Some users can arrive via search, probably you just search on Google, paid campaigns, ads on Facebook, direct email blast. Sometimes you can attach your link. Maybe they saw the links to your website from an email advert or an email promotion. Okay? So we should ensure that there is flows from whatever point our users is entering or is coming entering our application through. That's for the principle of front doors. Okay. Then the next principle is the principle of multiple classification. This is I talked about this last week when we talked about flowers and you have an e-commerce platform and you do not know where to classify flowers. You would have a category called plants, have a category called ornamentals. So instead of wasting the cognitive load and the stress thinking of where best should flowers fall under, from research, from card sorting, from experience, food, find that it's best for us to put flowers in both categories. That's why it calls multiple classification. So because we are grouping things in different categories doesn't mean that one one thing belongs to one category. It can belong to more than one. So we should make sure that we are making that we're touching everywhere, that we're offering different classification schemes to our users. So in this situation, simply put the flowers both in the ornamental category and in the plant category. So wherever your user falls first in, they can find it. So for example, here a recipe website might allow users to browse recipes not only by cuisine type, but also by dietary restrictions and cooking time. Okay. So multiple classification. So a particular food or a particular recipe that the user is looking for can be found it can be found via cooking time. So this is different search prompts or different search filters that we can classify the different recipes, hence multiple classification. So next principle is the principle of focused navigation. Simply focused navigation. So keep your navigation focused. Keep it simple. Keep it consistent. Okay. The principle states that do not mix apples and oranges in your navigation scheme. Stick to one. This means a navigation system should be consistent. For example, a bar at the top of the page shouldn't shift or use different words when users click into different types of content. Okay. For example, let's say your WhatsApp mobile application, you have your nav bar, your bottom nav bar where you have home, you have chat, you have community, then you have your updates. Okay. So now what this means is that your navigation should be focused. Let's say I click on now I've in my chat page or in my chat screen in my WhatsApp mobile application, and I've seen all the navigation menus. I've seen what is available to me. So let's say I click on updates, and when I click on updates, the navigation menu changes. I become confused because how am I supposed to go back to chat? Okay. So our navigation system should be consistent. Should always be consistent. Then the last principle is the principle of growth. Principle of growth. Assume that the content you have today is a small fraction of the content you will have tomorrow. Okay. For example, don't assume because you don't want a blog now that you never will. Make sure the website and application is scalable. So this one I talked about MVP, minimum viable products. So the minimum viable products is not where your product might stop. Everything scales. WhatsApp is constantly changing their UI, changing their design system. More than their UI, they're changing their information architecture, the structure of the application. So always have that idea that your content that you're creating will grow. That's the principle of growth. Like in the example I stated before, when you have a blog and you have a customer service page. For the blog now, you know this would scale. This is something that has potential to that sometimes you can even with the inclusion of AI in everything, that's a way of scaling. Now in almost every social media application, there's integration of AI in it. It was not there before. It was not in the very first product that was created. So this is scaling. So we should assume the principle of growth in our information architecture when creating the information architecture of our website. Those are the 8 principles of information architecture. The principle of object, principle of choices, principle of disclosure, principle of exemplars, the principle of front doors, the principle of multiple classification, principle of focused navigation, and the principle of growth. So there are eight principles of information architecture. Okay, so it's okay, object choices, disclosure, exemplars, front doors, multiple classification, focused navigation, and growth. Those are the 8 principles of information architecture. Okay, so now we have discussed site maps, which is basically the organization component and the labeling component of the information architecture. So now let's discuss navigation systems as a component of information architecture. Okay, so now navigation system is simply the process of creating a system that helps users find information and move around a website or application easily. So navigation design, we're now coming into the actual design. We're trying to create a system that helps users move around a website easily. That helps users, that ensures that users at any point or place or position that they find themselves in an application, they know where they are, they know where they can go, and they know how to get there or how to go back easily. That's what navigation tells you. What does navigation helps you to do? So it's akin to giving your users a map or a sign so they don't get lost. That's simply what a navigation system does for our users. So the importance, firstly, it helps users find information quickly without getting lost. Okay? It reduces frustration and confusion. It improves usability and engagement, boosting conversion. So remember that this information architecture I talked about is two-sided. I said this on Monday. It has the value for the business and the value for the user. So as your information architecture, your navigation system is improving usability and engagement for the user. So the user is using your application and they are delighted, they are satisfied, their problems are being solved, they are engaging with it. This is also boosting your conversion, boosting your business growth, and satisfying whoever employed you. And lastly, the navigation system can influence whether a user stays or leaves your site. Stays because the site is giving them what they want, or leave because the site is making them frustrated. They can't find anything. They are getting lost. That's the importance of a navigation system. So what are the types of navigation rather? We're very familiar with this. It's things that we have seen. If you have used a device, a digital application before, you should have seen this navigation system before. So the first one is the top navigation. So this is usually horizontal at the top of the page used for websites. When we went to KodeCamp website, last week, on Monday rather. When we went to KodeCamp website, we saw the home, the about, the contact us, the donate. So that's the top navigation. That's the top navigation. And for the KodeCamp website, that's the main navigation, that website. So at any point or place that you are in the KodeCamp website, you know how to find, how you know how to go back. You know where you are. You know how to find yourself. So the top navigation usually shows the most important links like home, about us, or contact us. It is familiar, expected, and works well across devices. So this top navigation is very familiar. Is the most common for websites. It's most is expected because once you come to a website, you're already expecting it to be there. You're already expecting to easily click on home or to contact us. If you're looking for any any link or any um place in the any page in the website, you're going to look there immediately. That is the most common navigation that we usually employ for websites. Then the next one is the side navigation, which is the sidebar menu. So this is a vertical menu on the left or right side or the right side of the page. It's good for dashboard or content heavy apps. And it holds many links without clustering the top of the application. So this picture here, this is our CodeCamp LMS. The CodeCamp LMS, you can see this is the sidebar, the side navigation. So for everybody here using the CodeCamp LMS, you have used the dashboard. This is a mobile responsive design. So this is what the sidebar looks like. We're all familiar with it. Then the next one is the footer navigation. Footer, I mentioned this last week too. Your top navigation is usually at the top of your website, while the footer would always be found at the bottom of your website or the web page. So it's used for less critical links like privacy policy, terms, support, and all that. So while the top one is used for important links, the bottom one is used for less critical links, things that would not really appeal to most users. So it's not everybody that would be interested in reading your privacy policy or your terms and conditions. So there's no reason for you to just put that at the forefront of your website. That's why we keep those links at the footer, that's the bottom of the web page, so that if by any means it's needed, it's available to you. So that's the purpose of the footer navigation. Then the next one is the hamburger menu. So it's a three-line icon shaped like a burger that opens a hidden menu and is often used on mobile. Okay, so that for the same CodeCamp website, you can see the hamburger menu here. It's usually shaped like these three lines. These three lines. So it uses the shape or the structure of a burger. You know how a burger is. You have the first bread, you have the beef, then you have the second bread. So it's three layers. So that's why we call it the hamburger menu. It's just simply three lines. So wherever we are, whatever application we are using, once we see these three lines, by familiarity, the fact that we have used a lot of application, we already have the knowledge that clicking on these three lines will reveal a hidden menu that we can now use for navigation. Okay? So we usually use this for mobile because the mobile screen, your mobile phone, the screen is not as big as as a desktop screen. So we are trying to use as much space or save as much space as possible in mobile screens. So instead of putting this home about courses, how it works, donate in this page, if I put this on this page, and make it static. There will be less information for others. There will be less information for other content. So we make this accessible by just putting a hamburger menu. And at any point in time you want to switch between the different navigations or the different tabs, you can just click on it and it reveals the options you have. So you can easily navigate through the mobile application. So the next one is the breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs is also a type of navigation. I'm not sure. Most of us are not familiar with it, but it's found near the top of a sub page. Note, sub page. So for you to see a breadcrumb, you must have gone somewhere. So let's say I click on home, then I see shop, and I see shop some items. I click on shop item. Then I see a shoe I want to shop on. I want to shop a shoe I want to get. And I click on the shoes. I click on the shoe. So now a breadcrumb now is simply a a text or like an indicator that tells me that I'm currently viewing this shoe. Okay, but before I got here, I was at the shop page, and before I got to the shop page, I was at the home page. So it easily lets me decide that okay, I'm done here. Let me go back to the home page. So the breadcrumbs is very essential for robust websites that are very have very very large, has a lot of screens, e-commerce websites especially. You will see this on Jumia website. If you use their website, not the application, you would see this breadcrumbs. Okay? The reason why we call it breadcrumbs is as simple as you know how we are eating bread and the crumbs from the bread is dropping on the floor. So it's kind of like a trail. The crumbs act as a trail for the person who is for the person who is eating the bread. Okay. So that's why we call it breadcrumb. That's the idea behind the name breadcrumbs. So in this picture now, you see that this is a folder called background. Lots of pictures. Then before I got to this background, there was pictures here, and before that, you were at the desktop or in the home rather. So I am not lost at any point in using this application. If I'm done here and I decide, okay, I need to go back to home, I click on the home icon. So it's the same thing, navigation, helping me as a user move from one place to another, ensuring that I know where I am. So now I know that I am in background, telling me where I came from. I know I came from pictures and giving me the option to go anywhere. These three links are clickable. Yes, Zenda has it too. Thank you, Daisy. So these three links are clickable. So if I decide to click on pictures, I go back to pictures. So I am not lost at any point in using this application. And the last one we're going to talk about is the drop-down menus. So it's found under a main navigation item and expands on hover or click. It expands to show subcategories or nested links. So most of us that have been using Google Doc for our assignments, we should be familiar with this. You're going to see different items on your toolbar or when you click on file, then you see a lot more content. You see export, import, edit, format. So these are different things you can do, different paths you can follow that is being hidden in a drop down menu. So it's usually found under a main navigation item. So your main navigation items are usually the stop navigation, side navigation, hamburger menu. So when you click on it, you might now see other options. So this is now a drop down menu. It expands to show subcategories or nested links. Okay. So what are the best practices for navigation design? We've talked about the types of navigation, the importance. I'm trying to get the general idea of creating the the architecture of our website. You know, architecture in the English term on its own, without any context, is related to buildings, architecture, and architecture, uh, civil engineer, architecture. Is it architecturist? I don't even know. Well, yes, architect. Sorry, that's what I'm saying. So yes, the way an architect creates a 3D or 2D version of a building, it's the same way an information architecture helps us create a map of a product, a digital product, to ensure that users can find whatever they want to find at any point in time. That our application is intuitive, that users don't get lost. Like you see this maze thing. I don't know if you know what a maze is, but at some point you will get stuck somewhere. There's no route to follow. There's no way to go back. There's no way to go front. Now, an information architecture is made or designed to ensure that our users never get lost in a maze. Right? At any point in time, they know where to go. They know how they got there, and they know where they can go or where they came from. That's the whole point of the information architecture system. So best practices for navigation design is one, be consistent. Like I said, be consistent. For um, use the same menu layout and order across all pages. If you're not consistent, your users will get confused. Am I still using the same application? It might have happened to you. You're using something, you enter somewhere and the whole user interface or the navigation system is different. So the next one is to use clear labels. So saying about us, not who we are, keeps it obvious. So use clear labels for your navigation system. Remember that your navigation system is meant to be simple and precise. You're going to put one word there, and that word should easily tell your users what that thing does. So sometimes that's why we usually employ icons to help us. Even in this Zoom application that we're using right now, navigation system, now you can easily see it in audio, you see video, you see participants, you see chat, you see share, you see pause, you see annotate, you see remote control, you see hide meetings. So the wordings they used for this for different tasks that you can do on Zoom call. Labeling is as clear as possible. And they still use icons. They still use icons to help throw that idea to you, to help reinstate what you are trying to share across. So that's one of the best practices. Make your labels as clear as possible. So the third one is to limit menu items. Limit menu items. Imagine if your WhatsApp mobile has 10 links, 10 navigation items in that bottom nav bar. Imagine if it has 10 of them. So it overload you as a user. Okay, it's not efficient. So limit many items. The best number is 5 for mobile applications, maximum of 5. Then 5 to 7 for web applications. So this is for this is for main navigations, like the ones the user can see immediately. So limit them. So you see how in Discord you have the navigation here. So to ensure that I, as a user, I am not overwhelmed by the amount of navigation items here, they created a more. So now you can click on more. You now see other items on Zoom. Okay. So this was done not to overload your users. The next one is to highlight current page. Simply help the user know where they are. Help users know where they are. Help users know where they are. When we were navigating the KodeCamp website, when we were at the home page, the home was highlighted, it was blue. When we went to contact us became blue and home became neutral, the normal color. So also make it clickable. Don't just list items, make sure they work in your website. And also keep mobile in mind. Ensure the menu works well on small screens. So ensure whatever navigation system you're using is mobile responsive. So this is what um the yes the top. So now in this CodeCamp website, if you're accessing it the website from the website on your desktop or your laptop, it's going to be a top. It's going to be a top navigation, a horizontal line. But if you're accessing it from your mobile phone, same website, it's going to be a hamburger menu. Okay, so we should keep all these things in mind when designing our navigation system. Now, in summary of everything we've talked about on information architecture is the backbone of any user-friendly digital experience, helping users find what they need quickly and intuitively. A strong information architecture supports both user experience and business goals, from boosting conversions to reducing support costs. So, like I said, value for the user, value for the business. The information architecture design process involves understanding users, auditing content, and structuring information in ways that scale. So, we take note of all the principles of information architecture to ensure that we are structuring our information in ways that can scale. So validation methods like card sorting, tree testing, and live testing reveals how users actually interact with your architecture. So we talked about the validation methods in our last class, using card sorting, tree testing, and live testing to see how users actually interact with our architecture. To know if it's actually helping users find what they want quickly, easily, seamlessly, or intuitively. So visualizing information architecture through sitemaps improves clarity, usability, and cross-team communication. So this is the sitemaps we talked about in our last session. It helps us to visualize information architecture of our digital project. Navigation systems are designed to help users move around a website or apps easily. So that's all for the theoretical aspect of today's session. Is there any questions? Any questions about any questions, confusion? Right. So raise up your hand if you have any question. Any question? Please better ask question because everybody here, every single person here, you're going to design your own information architecture. So I do not want at that stage you start asking the questions. All right. If you're not asking any question now, it means everything is clear to you. So is there any question or should we jump into Fig Jam? All right. Okay. Abuchi, unmute your mic.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, my question is, I didn't see any color or anything related to with color. Is that a
Okay.
principle? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I said that I didn't see anything related with color. If you are doing it, if you are trying to design any stuff like that, is the color not that important with the designing what you are designing?
Okay. Yes, it is important. Yes, it's important. But like the principles of information architecture is speaking to information architecture as a whole, as a concept, not just the sitemap. So our last class, when we were talking about visualizing hierarchy, when we were talking about sitemap, that's creating a sitemap on FigJam, we talked about colors, talked about shapes. So that's where I think that's where where that's where colors come in. So if you are not in last class, you can watch the video or look at the class slides when I drop it. So we talked about colors and visual consistency in creating the sitemap. But information architecture is more than just the sitemap. So that's why the principle does not mention that. Principle is talking about navigation because as much as colors and visual things is necessary for design. That's just the framework. That's not the actual design. That's not what the user is actually using. All right. So we are focused for the principles. We're focused on the general concept of making our application easy to navigate. Does that clear you, Abuchi?
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Thank you.
yes,
I will
thank you.
drop the slides after this class. Okay. All right, Joyce, you can unmute your mic.
Okay, ma, thank you. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Ma, please, I want to ask, is there any specific difference between information architecture and navigation design
And what
and navigation design?
navigation system? Yes, there is. The navigation system is a component of information architecture. Okay, it's a component. Remember, information architecture is it's a general concept. It involves organization. That's why I talked about four different components last week. It involves organization. That's our organization system. How are we organizing content? Why are we keeping things in a particular place? Okay, so navigation now simply tells you that this is here, this is here, this is here. Okay, but it does not tell you the reasoning behind why you kept that in there. So information architecture is more than just navigation systems. It involves organization, how you organize those systems, labeling, how you label those systems, then navigation. So now you have labeled, you've organized. So now you're making sure your users can navigate through that content that you have labeled and organized. All right. So that's where navigation systems come into play. And the last one is the search system. I talked about this when you have to ensure that users can search for content at every page they are in, at every page that is as depending on how complex the page is, or if it's something that has a lot of content that users should would be interested in searching. Okay. Does that is that clear to you, Joyce?
Yes, ma. Yes, ma. Yes, ma. Thank you.
All right, then you're welcome. Okay. Chama Esther, I did do a summary. So I do not know what other summary you need. Okay. Namaka, Amaka, if your question about the class, if your question is not about the class, please hold on. All right. If your question is about the class, you can unmute your mic. All right. So I'll get back to you after we're done with the jam. So in summary, for Chuma that I've requested, in summary for everything that we have talked about, information architecture, simply helping your users find what they need quickly and intuitively. That's the whole idea of information architecture. So just um compare information architecture for digital platforms to architecture for buildings, for um physical things that has been built, for houses rather. Okay, so just compare those two things. They are doing the same thing. Same way an architect uses pen and paper and drafts out how a house will be built, making sure that each room has a door, making sure that from if you are in the kitchen or if you are in the parlor, you can go to whatever room you are going to. So users will not you will not get lost in the house. So that's what an architect does. It takes into account a lot of different things to ensure that a house can be used as efficiently as possible or will be built as efficiently as possible. So that's the same thing that applies to information architecture. But now this is in the digital space. So just ensuring that users can find things they need quickly because digital products they are all created to solve problems. All right. So now information architecture is made to ensure that users can use your application to find what they need, to find that solution that they're looking for quickly and intuitively, that it's not lost on them. Because it will be a lot of waste if we are creating solutions and users cannot use our solutions. That's why we have to use information architecture to ensure that the structure of our products or our application is such that it can be used. That's the whole concept of information architecture. That's the whole idea of information architecture. So now using sitemap, navigation, labeling, organization is to help us do that thing that I just described. So that's the whole summary of the class. Ifejola, you can unmute your mic.
Hello, good evening, man.
Good
I was going to
evening.
ask a question on the evening. Yes, I was going to ask a question on the principle of front doors. Where you said assume that at
Okay.
least 50% of users will use a different entry point. Because I had a
Okay.
correction on my task that said if users don't click on login or sign in, where exactly are they going to enter from? And you said something also about us creating user flows that everybody started from the home page. So my question is, while designing user flows, do you like make different user flows for like considering the fact that users will come in from different places, or you just tweak one user flow to accommodate like the different
Mhm.
places or different entry points from users' point of view?
Okay. Now it depends, honestly, it depends on you as a designer and what you choose to do. It depends on how best you think it will be represented. Okay. So for most times, user flows, we split it. We split user flows as per task. That's why when I was talking about user flows, I mentioned task flow as a particular type of user flow. So for performing a particular task, just one particular task on your platform, if there are different ways that task can be performed, depict that in one user flow because it's one flow. Understand? So if the user is coming from websites, coming from an ad, depict all that in one user flow diagram. All right. But when it now comes to the performing different tasks, you can split it into different flows. So let's say you have a flow. So that's why I talked about labeling. Most of you in your task, you did not label your user flow. So me looking at your user flow, I'll feel it, I'll be a bit lost. Like what is the flow? What journey am I flowing through? So while you're creating your user flow, just write the title. There should be a title of the user flow. So you can simply label it user flow of a let's say buying an item in an e-commerce platform. So that's buying an item, just buying. That's one task I want to buy. All right. So another flow can be tracking an item. For those two flows, you can create two different flows for both. So yeah. So does that answer your question, Jola? Are you clarified on what you should be doing? Jola, are you there with me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my network kicked me out, but I got to the point of, yeah, I got clarity on what you were trying to explain. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Sharifat, you said if can I mention the principles again? Okay, so what you do for me, I cannot mention the principles again. What you do is to take a look at the slide when I drop it in the Discord channel, or if you want in-depth explanation on them, you can watch the YouTube video after the class. All right. So, okay, Joyce, you can unmute your mic.
Okay, sorry, please. Okay, assuming you have like different, so many, you have several options for your navigation system, and all the options are important. Is there any specific way to arrange
Okay.
them, or maybe you can just put everything? Let's say you want to keep it simple.
Okay.
Is it right to just put everything on one screen, or maybe there are specifics you just focus on and leave the rest?
Yes, they are specific. So now let's say you have things that we just have to, no matter how much we want to put, we feel that everything is important, we just have to limit it. Okay. Everything is important and everything would still be available. Because it's not in the main navigation system does not mean that it will never be seen. Okay. So they might just have to click on a link twice to find it. So now, using your user research, your everything you have done at that stage, you should have identified what is most important to the user. What exactly do they want to? Because one time when you come to an application, you might just use two parts of the application. For WhatsApp now, WhatsApp, most people do not use communities tab. The communities tab is a tab. What tab is that? So WhatsApp has five items in their nav bar. Or did they remove it? Okay, yeah, sorry, the calls tab. So yeah, WhatsApp has chat, updates, communities, and chat and calls. Like it has calls as a main navigation item. So left to me, or left to most people that analyze WhatsApp in their very first stage one task, you can remove that call option and put profile there. Because profile is something that people would go to change, maybe to change the profile, to change your bio. Most people don't. There's no reason for you to go to the call tab to look at your call history. It's not that important to you. So now, as a user, I'm not saying now that you should scrape call. I'm telling you now as a designer to decide on what's more important to your user. What is the most important items to your user? What are they looking for? Then put those ones first and keep others later. So now that's why I also said that information architecture, we have to validate it using card sorting and using tree testing, using live website testing. So now you having 8 items that you decide is important, but you want to narrow it to 5 because 8 items as your navigation is too much and it would cause overload and cognitive overload. So now when you During the live website testing, when you're watching your users navigate through this, you would get the idea or the sense if something should be replaced. Let's say there's an item that you hid somewhere that is not in the main content. If they start looking for that item, it tells you that okay, this item should be in the main navigation area. All right. So yes, you always have to limit the content. It doesn't matter how important you think it is, limit it. Users will not do 8 things at a particular time. Okay, Joyce, is that clear? Joyce, Joshua,
Yes, ma. Yes,
is that clear?
yes, it is. Yes, ma. It is. It's clear.
All right.
Thank
Okay, so hold on, please. Let me share my. Okay, sorry, hold on. I'm trying to share the. Okay. Okay, so if you still have the link for the Figjam file we have been using, oh, okay. Hold on. Did somebody rename the document? Because I was trying really hard to find the document, and it was not the name I saved it. Hold on. Let me share it. Okay, we are here, sir. Most of us are here already. All right, please just indicate in the chat box if you can see my screen. Let me share this. Okay, so we are going to continue from where we stopped yesterday. I'm sorry, I said yes. Okay, so yeah. So as at that Monday we finished the structure of the home section. So we are supposed to enter the about. So now about has the introduction, the journey milestones, our values, sponsors, and testimonials. Now each of these things they are not individual pages. So looking at the key we created, pages should be pink, call to action should be purple, and sections should be yellow. So these are sections. So we are going to use yellow to depict them. So if you are on the file with me, you can help me and do that. You can just get create. You can duplicate one of the rectangles here. Control D. Then take it here and start filling in the about. So just learn to interact with this. Be familiar with the interface. So this should be introduction. Okay, so now we're going to give them, we're going to change the color to gray. I'll change all the colors to gray so we do not mix colors a lot. So you can join the FigJam file and just work with the content inventory we created. Let me see what we can do. So let's just put hands on. So if you are in the FigJam file, you can work on it. You can see Daniel. I can see, where did she go to? So also, you should also learn to collaborate. You should also learn to work with people. So now I can see that Adeze is at introduction, so I can let her work, continue with about because that's how Figma is. You know where everybody is. So this is Adeze. Abigail is also here. I do not know where Daniel went to. All right, so Adeze, you can complete that section. Add the journey, the values, sponsors, and testimonials. Then for courses, we can go ahead to go to courses. I'm not seeing anybody doing anything. I'm just seeing a lot of arrows. Okay, Uti, do you want to you can continue with courses, and then how it works? How it works, Abigail. Okay, Oluwaseun, your hands are raised. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I
You're
said I'm a bit
unable.
lost. I'm a bit lost with
Okay.
what is going on here.
Okay, why are you lost?
I don't understand what we are supposed to do on the Figma. I don't get what everybody's doing. Sorry.
Okay, were you in the last class?
No, I wasn't.
Oluwaseun, you weren't.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we are doing is that at our last class, we started creating the information architecture for KodeCamp website. So we analyzed the website and we got this content inventory. This is the way the the website is structured. This is how the website is structured. Okay. So now we are creating the information architecture. As our last class, we created the keys. So these are the keys. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Mhm. Okay, we created the keys. So our keys is that purple. If you see a purple rectangle, it's representing any major pages. That's pages of the website. See a purple rectangle, it's a call to action, it's a CTA. If you see yellow, it's representing sections. So sections is means that this is section of a page. It's not a page on its own, but it's a section of a page on the CodeCamp website. Then color is this blue is representing subsections. That if a section is divided into two, we're calling it a subsection. All right. So we created the home. We created the home section last week. So now home had the hero section, the key statistics, the milestones, sponsors, testimonials, features and benefits, the register. Now this register is a call to action. That's to register for the bootcamp. So that's why it's purple. The another section is the footer. Now footer, like we talked about today, is a navigation system. So the footer now has some subsections. So that's why this is blue. Has some subsections. Now this is the subsection home, subsection about us, courses, and call to action. So this particular subsection, contact us, has its own page. All right. So this page is now has two sections in it. In the contact us, we can find the let's connect and the frequently answered question. So that's how we created this particular part of the information architecture on Monday. So for today, we are continuing with the other aspect of the information architecture. So we want to work on the about, the courses, the how it works, the donate, and the join bootcamp. That's what they are doing at the moment. Right? So now there's a mistake that I'm seeing people doing on the jump file. So now to remember, like I said last week, your arrows matter. Your arrows matter. So first of all, I want us to change the colors of our arrows to gray. So let our arrows be consistent and let's not cause the color riot here. So remember consistency. So now for the sections now, for this hero banner I am on, me putting an arrow here is telling me that if I click on the hero banner, I enter the workflow overview, which is not true. The hero banner and the workflow overview are on the same level in the website. So this arrow should not have a point here. It should just be connected. Okay? Just means that these are connected. Where the arrow end should be is in this one because how it works now contains every other thing here. I don't know, does that make sense? Okay? Yes, Faith, for your donate, this arrow, indeed, the first arrow connecting your donate with others should have an end. So put the end there. Who wrote my name here? So for consistency, Faith, go back to the arrow you just created and change the width. Change the width. Like go to line style and make it thin. Now, who did this? I think is this Abigail? Who did this? Our courses, beginner registration, intermediate.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not the one. Oh, I'm on view only. I can't even
Okay.
edit.
All right. Promise. What's your name? So, Promise, what you would do here is these are courses. You do not see for this particular category. Just name it our courses. Then create two subsections. One section is beginner, and the next subsection is intermediate. All right. So change that to our courses. Then create two subsections alongside it. So to give space for those two subsections, I'm going to push this a little to the side. Okay. Yes. Change the size. Remember consistency. Change it. Change the size. Change the size. This is too big. It's not consistent with what others are using. So you can just delete it. Just delete it. Then copy and paste something you've already been using. So it helps you be consistent. More is moving me around. Abigail, your hands are raised. Please, can I hear? Let me hear what you have to say.
I just want to say I'm on view only. I can't edit.
Okay, Abigail, let me see. Hold on, let me change your status.
Okay.
Abigail Akambe, right?
Yes, yes.
You can edit.
All right, ma.
Edit. Okay, let me. That's right. Yeah, you can edit. Edit. I think. Let me change this. I don't know why. So okay. So yes. Promise you're on the right track. Okay. So just you can move. Who is working on about? Why are you not done till now? And who is this magician that is trying to move this around? Let me move this. Okay. No, 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 no. Okay. Who is working on our courses? That's Joy. It's Joy Ifoma. So one thing is when you're collaborating with a lot of people, just ensure that you are not doing someone else's work. So that's why it's collaboration. You most of the time when you're working on different projects, you'll be working with different designers in your team. So it's supposed to be collaborative, not chaotic. Right? Daniel, Daniel, can you edit? Ade is a you can unmute your mic.
Hello, ma. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cannot. I can hear you, Adeze.
Ma, I'm on view only. I can't edit.
Which link are you guys using to join? Hold on, let me change your status. Adeze Dorothy, is
Yes,
that you?
yes, ma.
You can edit. You can edit. So from my settings here, you can edit.
Oh my god. Okay, let me restart this thing.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Daniel, you can't. All right. Who else? You can drop your hand now, please. Let me see who else is raising up their hand. Um, Bonds Johnson, your architecture is looking like a user flow. Also, who created this hero banner? Is this me? Promise and Johnson, are you fighting over about? So now this is wrong. Let me correct. This is wrong. So for our course, it has both beginner and intermediate. So a subsection is blue. So I'm going to change the color of this to blue and write beginner. I'm going to move this up a little so I have space for the other one. Okay, so for the people that was working on this, Abigail, please, if you have just unmute your mic. Abigail, please.
Yes, ma.
Unmute your mic, let me hear from you.
My sister.
Okay, why is your hand raised? Somebody else has their hands raised. Okay, Ifejola, you can unmute your mic, please.
Yeah,
A
good
lot of
evening.
you
I
can't
just
edit.
noticed that the about should have introduction, then journey and milestone. This our courses falls under courses, not under about. I don't know, maybe the person that started it made a mistake.
Okay, please, if you're on the file, correct it. Are you on the file?
Okay. Yes, I am.
Yeah, correct it. Correct it there. Oh yeah, I can see it. There's no courses here. I do not know who did that. So just correct that. It should be in courses, yes. Correct it, please. I knew something was wrong somewhere. Okay, so let me see what. Okay, the person that did donate. Now, your font size here is inconsistent. It's inconsistent. I'm guessing you did that to accommodate space, but you can easily just enlarge it. It's understandable if you increase the size in this situation. All right. Okay, so who did this donate? I think you did a good job. Your donate is with the CTA, so this is well done. Okay, let me shift this a little for. Oh, I'm sorry. Please take your. Yes. How it works. Let's see how it works. Hero banner, workflow overview, and CTA. Okay, so the person that did the how it works, your CTA is not purple, so you are not using the key. But otherwise, this one is perfect. But your CTA should be purple, respecting the key we created previously. Okay, so Ezekiel is working on courses and Joy Ifoma is working on about. Let's wait. I think we're almost done, but we're already getting the idea of information architecture. Okay, so now we are not, like I said, we're not magicians, but the designer that designed KodeCamp websites, their information architecture would look very similar to this. to look very similar to this. So yes, we have gotten the structure of the application. Right. So okay, yes, Faith, it's what you're going to do for me is change the color of any arrow that's not gray, change it to gray. Any arrow that isn't gray in color, change it to gray. Ezekiel, your registration should start with capital letter. And that is not the purple we are using. That is not the purple of our CTA.
Nah, it's someone else that started editing registration, not me.
Okay, then is it promise? All right. Yes, change the color. That's not the color of our CTA. That is not the color of our CTA. Color of our CTA is a light purple. Somebody should change the CTA of how it works. Change the CTA of how it works to purple. Jason, I think you're there. Wow. Who is this person, please? Are you trying all the colors of the rainbow? Says the purple. Yes, yes, yes. And your spelling of registration is wrong. Right, Joy, you're doing a good job. Okay, so we is working on about the about. Are you done? And the about testimonials. Okay, so yeah, this is a nicely done information architecture, I guess. Okay. So I can space this out a little. Alright, so I think we are done. Alright, so I think we are done and we did a great job. Yes, so we all have, everybody here has access to documents. You have access to KodeCamp website. So you can just simply compare the structure of this to the website and see how the flow works out for you. All right, so I'm seeing some, let me see if is there any question? Okay, so Blessing asks, why are those places joined and not with arrows? Okay, now the reason why that's because when we are using arrows in information architecture and user flows, we are saying that it's just like having a mother and a child. So if I attach an arrow from one item to another item, I'm saying that the second item is a child of the first. Okay. So what that means is that if I attach an arrow between, let's see, between join bootcamp and donate. I'm saying that if you click on join bootcamp, or that donate is a child of join bootcamp, which is not so. They are on the same level. So now this is a page that has different items in it. These are different children. It's like saying this is children one, children two, children three, children four, children five. So they are all children. They're all they're all children, and they are the same level under one's category, the category of donate. So the arrow with that end would only be at donate. That's the mother. Others are in the same level. So they're just connected with an arrow showing that they are connected, but um they are not in different levels, basically. Right. So now David asks, the donate section, is the join bootcamp not a CTA? Okay, David, Daniel, I do not know. So what you can do for us is go to the website and check it out. Check if in the donate section, check if the join bootcamp is a CTA. Then if it's a CTA, if you change it on the exam file. So the person doing the courses should edit the arrows. Yes, 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 that's true. Ezekiel, the person on the courses section should edit the arrow. That is true. True, true, true. Features and benefits has a green border line. Is there a way to change it? That is not a green border line, please. There is somebody there. There is somebody. That is an indicator that somebody is on. Let me see. Yeah, that's an indicator that somebody is there. That's what it means. It's not a border line. So it just an indicator that somebody is working on features and benefits. And I think that was me. Okay, so someone has removed the courses. So yeah, we are good to go. So is there any other question? Let's round up today's section. So next week we would start prototyping. That is the fourth stage of design process. We have done the research, empathized, we have defined, we have ideated. Now before we actually entered prototyping, we stopped to talk about information architecture because it is what is going to inform our prototypes or the actual design on Figma. So that next week, I'm going to talk about prototypes. We're going to enter Figma properly, not FigJam, and explore the interfaces, learn how to use the tools there, and all that. Okay. So is there any other question, or should I say, is there any other question, or is it a happy weekend to us all? Abigail, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry you could not edit. Really sorry you could not edit. I would take a look at the settings of the file later, so everybody has the option to edit the next time. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, good night everybody, and thank you. If you have any question regarding your task, your elements, you can stay behind. But if you do not have any question, you can. Happy weekend to you. Enjoy your weekend. I'm going to drop this slide after this.
Hi, ma.